Hello and welcome to Booking Through Life. I'm Mary, and today we're going to talk about some film adaptations of Sense and Sensibility. I'm doing this in a two-part series so that it won't be over, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes. Trying to keep things short. And as you know, I'm not editing, so what you see is what you get. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and talk about it. Right now, this first part, we're going to talk about the direct film to movie adaptations. I have three of them. There's four. In addition to this one, there's also a 1971 version. I think that you can see it on YouTube. So I will plan on watching it when I've let this kind of cycle out of my brain a little bit more. I think I became a little saturated with Sense and Sensibility adaptations. But anyway, I did enjoy watching all of them. So here we go. I'm kind of ranking them, sort of just discussing the differences between them. So the first one I want to talk about is the BBC Classics version of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. I think this one, and I can't vouch for the 1971 version. This is the 1981 version. I think they get a bad rap because they were filmed back in back in the day, back in my day, and they were filmed on set instead of on location, and you can definitely tell that. So if you can get past that and you can say, okay, I'm watching something that's going to look a little bit different than what I'm used to. It's not going to have actors that I'm used to. I think that you might like it. I didn't find anything wrong about it. I thought it was good. It's a acceptable acceptable version. It's I think I can't remember now. It was 2 weeks ago, and I've had vacation since then. I can't remember if it's 5 or 7 episodes. So again, it's more true to the book because it has the length. It was decent. So, but if you've got limited amount of time, which we all do, then I would go for the two of these. These probably are tied. I don't know which one I like better. I might lean a little bit towards this one because I do like the male actors in this one, I think a little bit better than the male actors in this one. So Emma Thompson and Ange Lee did their version first. So we'll talk about this version first. The acting is phenomenal. The scenery, the locations are gorgeous with both of these. I think Eleanor and Marianne both are good. They do good interpretations of their characters. One of the things that I just noticed every time she said it is Emma Thompson says dearest a lot, especially to Marianne. Dearest. That just kind of stuck out to me. I think the men in this version are just spot on for me. Hugh Grant plays Edward Ferrars, and I think he got for me a little bit more than Dan Stevens is over here in this version, the Andrew Davies version. And I think that Hugh Grant kind of got that shyness a little bit more for me than Dan Stevens did. Dan Stevens was they're both kind of instantly likable, but Hugh Grant, especially when he was younger, had this look, this puppy dog kind of hurt or shy look that just like kind of pierces you, and he's just super good at that. And so I really enjoyed that, and I kind of felt like it maybe caught a little bit of Edward a little bit more for me than dishy Dan Stevens, although Hugh Grant is dishy in his younger years too. At least for us older gals. And then Greg Wise played Willoughby, where Dominic Cooper plays Willoughby in this one. Dominic is from Mamma Mia fame. Greg Wise, I don't know what he's been in, but I do know that he and Emma Thompson, I do believe they met on this film, and they've been married and they have a successful marriage for many years. So that's kind of interesting that Eleanor ends up with Willoughby. I like this Willoughby because he looks a little more edgy. He looks like he's a little bit, maybe has a little bit of bad boy in him, where Dominic Cooper just looks like a nice young man. And who knows, Willoughby could have looked that way. I mean, certainly if he looked like a scoundrel, maybe Marianne wouldn't have been so enthralled with him, or maybe Marianne just liked a bad boy. And then Colonel Brandon is played by the late Alan Rickman, and I just love him. And for me, I think he encapsulated Colonel Brandon a little bit better. I think Colonel Brandon seems a little broody, a little moody, a little reserved, and I felt like Alan Rickman got that, where in this movie, the actor is Dan Starring. No. David Marring. That's who it was. David Marring. And he just looks like a nice older man. Which that's maybe Colonel Brandon looked that way, but I just felt like it, for me, it was more satisfying in this version. This version, although, is a little, as far as the storyline, I think it goes along with the storyline, whereas Jane Austen doesn't give you a whole lot of like why and how Eleanor fell for Edward. Really, in the book, you have to kind of take Mary Ann's word for it that he's not good looking and he's kind of shy, but he kind of grows on you. And you don't get walked through the steps. Where in this version, Andrew Davies really walks you through the steps. He adds his take on it, and he is a master at the period pieces. He's done the Colin Firth Pride and Prejudice. He's done the J.J. Fielding's Northanger Abbey. He's also, I mean, he just has a long list. He did Sanditon. He did Little Dorrit. He did the he also did Bridget Jones' Diary. So he wrote the screenplays for those. So for this one, this one starts off a little scandalous, which when I hadn't watched this one in a while, so when I turned it on, I'm like, do I have the right movie, the right disc in here? Because it's very sensuous, and it's letting you know it's a scene with Willoughby, and you're not sure if it's Marianne or if it's Eliza, and it's letting you know right off that there's a scandal and there's somebody who is not a gentleman. And so we go in with that scene, and that really is that scene. It really, even though Jane Austen doesn't tell us about that scene right off, that scene is very much central to the story of Sense and Sensibility. And so then also he picked Dan Stevens because he is kind of a dishy guy, and they played that up, which isn't in the book. There's a scene where Edward is letting off some steam and he's chopping some wood and it's raining, and Dan Stevens has this white shirt on, and so it's getting wet, and you're kind of seeing, like he's a muscly guy, and so yeah, there's a lot there that Jane Austen definitely wouldn't probably approve of, but so there's more walking you through. You can see why Eleanor likes Edward, and not just because he looks good in a wet shirt, but he interacts with Margaret. a little bit, and you kind of see it a little bit more. Like I said, he walks you through that, and he does that with Marianne and Colonel Brandon too. There's a little bit more meat to their relationship as well. You can see Marianne kind of turning her opinion about Brandon in this film adaptation. Also, he takes some scenes. There's another scene that he takes that's just mentioned in the book, and that's the duel between Colonel Brandon and Willoughby, and you actually get to see that played out in this movie. So there's much to be said. I just don't feel like you can, if you choose one or the other, I don't think you're going to regret one decision over the other. I think they're both equally good. They both have, merits to swing one way this way or the other way. Another plus side for this one is Lucy Boynton. She was in Sing Street, and she was in the biopic Bohemian Rhapsody. She plays Margaret, and she's such a good young actress. That was so, I didn't remember that she was in it, and so that was kind of fun to see her as such a young actor and doing such a fabulous job. And then side characters, I can't remember, who excluded who, but you don't necessarily get all the side characters, all the cousins and whatnot in either one of these films, but both good. Can't go wrong. And I even think not this one, I even think you can't go wrong with this one. So all in all, I think Sense and Sensibility film adaptations are doing pretty good. I haven't seen the Hallmark 2024 Hallmark one. I imagine that it's going to be down on the list because, for me anyway, I like a Hallmark movie, but they're just a different category. They're just kind of a step below, but that's okay. That's in my opinion. So if you love Hallmark, let me know down in the comments. So I'd love to know which ones you've seen and what you think about them. Do you have a favorite version and why? I'd love to know. Next time in part 2, we'll be looking at the Indian version, also Sense and Sensibility, and From Prada to Nada. You can see both of those on Amazon Prime. Anyway, until next time when we chit-chat about that, I hope all of your movie viewings are good movies, and I'll talk to you again later. Happy Jane Austen July. Bye.